Hey everyone, this is Katie from the Health, Wellness, and Chocolate Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today I wanted to kind of take it straight back to the very beginning and the basics and go over an assessment tool that I use inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. And I'm going to go through it with you now. Now you can get your hands on it simply by going over to healthwellnessandchocolate.com. You can join the Health and Wellness Blueprint for $1 trial and download all these worksheets that I have in the user manual workbook. So if that's something that you find interesting, go for it. It's only $1 and then you can get the whole workbook. So today, what I wanted to talk about, though, was just one page of the workbook, and it's called the Wheel of Life Assessment Tool. And it's really one of the very first things that I have my clients do. And here's why. A lot of times when you struggle with your weight, there is almost like a disconnect for a lot of women, because a lot of times, and I say this a lot too, is like, extra weight is really a symptom of life out of balance. And if you can identify what is out of balance in your life and kind of focus on that, a lot of the other stuff, especially the extra weight, will really take care of itself. If you tend to overeat, or you tend to turn to food if you're stressed, if you're if something else is lacking in life, we'll try to look for external things and fill it up with that. So for some people, they may look to external things. Maybe they have retail therapy, right? Or they'll look, some people look to drugs to fill themselves up. Some people will look to alcohol, right? Like whatever there's a gap. Well, food is really kind of like a socially acceptable way to cope, get that hit of dopamine and feel better about life without any of like the negative social connotations that perhaps being an alcoholic would be, or perhaps being a drug abuser, right? Like, so food is kind of like a very socially acceptable way to cope and get outside influences to try to fill up what's lacking inside. So what I do is I walk you through a Wheel of Life assessment tool and try to help you narrow down in your life where there are the gaps. And then you can try then to start linking up, like, maybe it's like, oh, you know what? I am kind of bored and understimulated at my work. And so when I'm there, the only fun thing to do is go out to lunch, right? And so it's like, so we go out, we have these big lunches. It's the highlight of my day. But, those lunches, while it may be fun, they add up over time. And of course, that equals extra weight on a body. But if you could look at your job and reassess and say like, okay, this is really understimulating, and either try to negotiate for a different job, or, maybe create a project that you find challenging or stimulating in that way, and focus on that instead of lunch being the highlight of your day. It naturally turns your attention and your direction and your desire away from food being the highlight of your day to something else that's productive. In life, we all want to have purpose. We all desire to make an impact and to be known and to know people. And unfortunately, what happens is we'll get into a rut, and food really becomes a Band-Aid, and we'll use that to just pacify us or try to make it more for us than it really is. And that's when the extra weight creeps on. And before we know it, like for me, right? Like after having 7 kids and really just not paying any attention to my own self-care, and even realizing that I was not even taking care of myself because I was so focused on just enjoying being a mom and enjoying taking care of my family. But then if I felt overwhelmed, I felt guilty, and then I would eat. Or if I felt lonely or bored, then I would eat, right? And then of course, just having babies in general put extra weight on my body. So, you kind of find yourself, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 70 pounds overweight, and I would cry, and I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm health conscious. I'm not in my closet eating fried chicken, hiding in there like that. I don't know why I can't get rid of this weight. And it wasn't until I started to make these connections between the emotional eating and and the lack in life of what I felt was missing, and then making those connections, and then kind of building from there, that things began to change. And then when losing weight then wasn't from a place of deprivation, of like scarcity, or this feeling like, oh, I can't believe I'm on a diet. It wasn't like that at all. It was more like, I have goals now. I have a vision. I have challenges in my life that are good, that I put there to help me get to the next place in my life. And that was finally stimulating. So it was no longer like, okay, when they go to bed, now I can eat, or I can reward myself, right? Like life became the reward instead of the food. So if you want to take notes on this, you can. But like I said, you can go grab it off of the website. It's only $1 for the whole workbook, right? But this is the one page that we're talking about today. It's called The Wheel of Life. And you can get it inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint for the $1 trial. But so the Wheel of Life, it literally looks like a wheel. And so it's a big circle. And then you score yourself on a score from 1 to 10. So 1 being would be like the lowest. And then 10, of course, would be the highest. And so it's almost shaped like, if you can imagine, it's cut into a pie. Excuse me. And then we take a little piece of your life and you scale it. And you kind of can start to see, what areas in my life am I doing really, really well at and totally winning at? And what areas do I need to really maybe focus on right now? Nobody's wheel is going to be a perfect circle where everything in their life scores at a perfect 10. Okay. No one in the world has a perfect 10 in every single area of their life, because half of life is always going to be awesome. And half of life is there's always going to be a challenge, no matter who you are. That is like a given. Okay. So what your job is to do is kind of focus on where you are, and then try to bring the best version of yourself forward, so you can be effective in your life, so you can, show up as the person that you want to be, who God created you to be, so that you can help other people and be the best version of yourself. Right. So we'll start with career. Now, you may be a stay-at-home mom, right? Or you may be outside, working outside of the home. It doesn't matter. You can take your career and you can define it however you want. And so you're going to look at your career, like on a scale of 1 to 10. How is it going? How satisfied are you with your career? Is it stimulating? Are you being challenged? Is it rewarding? Do you feel like you're making an impact? Or, is it very frustrating for you? When I first got out of graduate school, I went to work for the Red Cross, and I was the director of public relations, and I was the health, I forget the name of it now because it was so long ago, but it was actually it was a great job, and I really enjoyed it. But then I got offered a job only a couple months later, and they were doubling my salary, but it was at a health department. So I went to work for the health department, of course, because I was on the verge of getting married, and it was just like, it was a logical next step, but it was such a boring job. And in fact, the person that hired me, they created the position, then they hired me. And only 2 weeks later, they got fired because it was a political position. So the person who hired them was not elected back into office. And so the person who was elected into office, they wanted to put their own people in. So the person who hired me was replaced. And so the next person, it took them a few months to hire the next person who would be my boss. And that boss did not really know what to do. It was a political position, and he wasn't familiar with the vision that the previous employer had. So it was a very boring job. There was really not much to do because the position was completely brand new, and it was supposed to be developed over time under this leadership of this other employer. So it was very underwhelming, very unstimulating, very boring, and it really was very frustrating. So, I mean, you can look at your career. It could be even as a stay-at-home mom, but for me, I missed going to work every day at first. Now I would hate it because I've gotten used to being home with my children. I even started Health, Wellness, and Chocolate to make sure it fit my life and it fit the goals that I had. And that's something too you can look at when it comes to your career. Dan Miller has a really good book. It's called 48 Days to the Work You Love. And he helps you kind of reverse engineer. So if you are frustrated in your career, that is a good resource for you. And what he does is he has you kind of look at your life. What are your gifts and your strengths? Where are you talented? What really lights you up? And then he has you kind of work backwards to find out like where you could be situated job-wise. And it's actually a really great resource too. So if you find your career is frustrating and you're using food to fill in those gaps, take some action. Start moving forward on that. But the whole point of this wheel of life is to help you kind of like see where you are and see what areas are scoring out of 1, and then kind of give you the courage to say, okay, this is where I'm going to focus on. And you just choose one area to start with first. Don't look at this as like, okay, now I've got all these areas I need to work on. Like pick one and have a plan for it and then move on to the next one. Don't overwhelm yourself. Okay, so that would be career. For me, for career, I love being a homeschool mom, but I really did kind of miss the teaching aspect of my profession, of the researching and the synthesizing information and then the teaching. So for me, starting Health, Wellness, and Chocolate was about like helping women lose weight, but also gives me the opportunity to like get some, research stuff and then put it together and then form these ideas and share them with you to help you move forward in your life too, right? So I had to look and see like, okay, what are my strengths and where do I want to move forward too? So then the next little piece of this pie in this wheel of life thing is for money, right? So if you look at money, if you find your finances are always a mess, if you're going to score on a scale of 1 to 10, right? So if you don't even have a budget, if money is always very scarce to you, if you always feel like you you can't, at the end of the month, you have no money. I think, what do they say? It's like, I have more month than money, right? That is an area you might want to focus on. So like, you might want to look at Dave Ramsey. He has Financial Peace University. He has a lot of really good resources for you to help get your money situation in order, to help you get on a budget, and not in a way that's like very rigid, but he helps you see like where your money is going. And he helps you like plug in the holes that might be leaking out of your money boat and help you identify, like, okay, what areas should I tweak? And then if you are eating or because you're feeling stressed over finances all the time, then that is definitely an area you want to take a look at and say, okay, I really need to get on a budget because I dread the fees from the bank when I bounce a check, or, I don't know if I'm going to have enough money to be able to afford food this month, right? Like what a stress and what a burden that is. So ignoring that's like our first desire, is to like ignore anything that's that's unpleasant. And so people will like just go months without opening a bank statement or not balancing a checkbook, or not taking any care to even live on a budget, or feel like, they'll just spend or run up a lot of credit card debt. Like those are all really avoidance and really not helping you, right, in your long-term goals. And actually, you're really kind of sabotaging yourself, especially if you react to stress, especially financial stress, by eating, okay? So money, if you score low on that, definitely see what the pain points are for you in that area, and then see what you can do. So then the next section is health and well-being, right? Like, how are you feeling on that? Are you always sick? Do you always feel lousy? Does your body always hurt? Are you, are you not feeling like the best that you could possibly be? So you would want to take a look at that. If you score low on that, get into a program like the Health and Wellness Blueprint. There's a shameless plug for you, right? But that can help you, get your health and your wellness back in line with the way you vision yourself, right? Like, so we're not looking to be teen models. Okay. I'm not going to be on Baywatch ever, but, you want to feel comfortable in your own skin. You want to be up for the task of the life that you've been called to live. And the only way you can do that is really by taking care of your health and wellness. So it is important. Like, you don't want to make an idol out of health and wellness, but you definitely want to take care of your body and be able to show up in your life in a great way. And yes, it will take intention and it will take time, but it takes time and money and intention to, pay for diabetic medication. It takes time to go sit in a doctor's office when you're ill. It takes time and effort to sit on the sidelines and not be able to do the things in life that you want to do because you've neglected your health and wellness. So if you score low on that, definitely find resources and find people who can help you score better, and take the time to really think like, okay, what is it in this area that's my biggest pain point? Okay. The next piece of that pie would be friends. So how are you with your friendships? Do you have good, close friends? I've talked about this before, like loneliness and isolation is a huge health risk. And if you do not have quality connections, you are really actually putting yourself in risk for illness and disease. So how are you scoring on that? Do you have close friends that you can confide in, that you, that they're your ride or die, that you can count on them to be there for you and you can be there for them. And they might, like, one person may not fill every single need that you have as far as a friendship or a relationship goes, but you can look and say, oh, this friend, they give me such amazing advice. Actually, I'll give you a perfect example. I have one friend, she's kind of like my business friend, right? She'll tell me of like different opportunities that are coming up. Like, hey, Katie, did you see this? You should really get involved with this. It's somebody that's looking for someone to go teach on health and wellness for moms, and she is actually become a very good friend, and we basically are best friends when it comes to business. And right before I hopped on here to record, I checked my email real quick, and there was a message from her like, hey, I have a free ticket to this upcoming business event, and would you want to come? I'd love to give it to you, right? Like that's a great friendship. Now, she doesn't live nearby. I'm not, calling her up and say, hey, let's go hang out and go shopping together, right? Like, our relationship is different, but she's a great friend to me that I can spend time with, and we can go over business stuff. And then I have other friends that are mom friends, and I have other friends that are mentor friends. But the point is, look at your life, right? Like, is there someone in your life, at least one person, hopefully you have more than one, but like someone that you really can count on, because everybody needs it. And then if you don't, you really need to start thinking about, okay, how can I go create that relationship or those relationships that I need, and go from there. And we do have that inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. I go over how to get those quality friendships. And then the next piece of the pie is family. So, you can't really do much with your family of origin, you kind of can create your family, but how are your family relationships? Are there boundaries in place? Like, are they healthy? How are you scoring on that on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you satisfied in those areas of family relationships? Or do you feel like maybe there's some issues you need to address? If you spend time with your mother-in-law and it's very stressful, and then you find yourself, eating because you're angry at her, that might, actually hurt your health and wellness efforts, right? So take a look at that. Like, is there anything coming up for you in regards to family? On a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfying are your familial relationships? And if they're not, what can you do? Because every relationship, you cannot change another person, right? You can only change yourself. So you can't change how they are, but you can change your thoughts about their behavior. You can detach if it's a toxic relationship and say, you know what, I can no longer feel responsible for this person's behavior and I'm not going to anymore. They can own it, and that's them, right? So you take a look at that and see what boundaries maybe you need to put in place, or if maybe you have very rigid boundaries because you've been afraid to allow these people in, maybe now is the time where you can let your guard down a bit and be vulnerable and allow a little bit more of a closeness with some family members if it's safe, right? The next section of our little wheel is personal growth and development. So with that one, are you learning something new? Like, are you stuck in a rut, or are you being intentional about learning new things, about, picking up a new hobby, growing yourself somehow so that you're an interesting person, right? There's nothing, I cannot stand spending time with people and the only thing they talk about is other people and then what diet they're on. And there's been like way too often that is like seriously the only conversation that these people have. And it's sad. And it's really kind of like, have you not read any good books? Have you not seen anything interesting, like an interesting documentary? There's nothing that you find fascinating. Like there's nothing you've done lately that has been interesting at all. So how are you? Are you an interesting person? Are you reading literature? Are you trying to learn a new subject, or stretch putting yourself out there, learning a new skill, maybe learning a new career even, right? Like, where are you as far as personal development goes? Now, like I said earlier, your brain and just the way we're designed, we're always striving to be more, right? And so if you're not growing, the opposite of growth is really kind of like shriveling and dying, if you could think of a plant on a vine. So we want to thrive. Like, our drive is to always thrive. And so if you're not, that could be an area of frustration for you. And again, if you're an emotional eater and you're always feeling frustrated because something's just not, you're just not feeling alive, or you feel like you're stuck in a rut, it could be because this personal development and this growth area of your life isn't really being fulfilled. So take a look at that and see. Now, there's the area of significant other or romance. Okay, so if you're married, or if you're dating, or, whatever your romantic situation is, do you have actual romance in your life? Is there, are you having fun with your spouse? Are you dating each other, right? Not just living together, not just like the obligatory sex, but like, is there actual romance? Do you consider that person in a romantic way? Do you, do you have fun with them? Is there a spark of romance? And if not, what can you do to make that relationship better? There is so much out there. I'm trying to think of the one book that The Love Dare, I think it was called. And they have like, if your relationship is a little bit stagnant with that one, I think it was called The Love Dare, but you could just Google it and probably find it. But like, they have like different things that you can do. Now, remember, if this is all you take responsibility for the relationships you have, because you can't change the other person, but you can change how you show up. And even just changing that one aspect of how you show up changes the dynamic of the relationship, right? So if that is an area that is, there's no romance, or it's just frustrating, you could do the Love Dare. Another thing, like Chris and I did, my husband, we went through the strength-based marriage and went through that together. And that was probably one of the best things I think we ever did, because it was so interesting to get to know each other on such a different level. And I appreciate him 1,000% more. I kind of joked because I don't know if I've shared this with you, but he likes to do the errands and stuff like that in town and do the food shopping. And I'm okay staying home. I'd rather just be home and like either be with the kids or be reading or doing whatever here. That's just like, he's very extroverted. I'm very introverted. And so it works that way. And he likes to do the food shopping. But when he goes food shopping, the man is gone for like 4 hours. And I'd be like, where do you go? Like, who can food shop for 4 hours? I could be back home in under an hour if I go food shopping. And that includes like the time I actually shop in the store and traveling to and from the store. I just don't, I get in, I get out. That's it, right? So he'll be gone for hours, but he always takes the kids with him, and he stops at different stores, and he's always, like it turns out he has one of his leading strengths is called individuality, which means like he can, whoever he's with, his focus is specifically on that one person. So if he's with the kids and they say, oh, can we stop at, like my one daughter, she loves the Asian market that's in our town. So can we stop there? Because I would love to get, I forget the name of the drink that she likes. They sell a specific kind of tea. She's like, oh, can we stop there so I can get that? And then maybe one of my other kids is like, oh, can we stop at Ulta? I want to go get, something from there. And then my boys are like, oh, can we go to Five Below? I want to try to see if they have this. And he'll make all these stops. And so it used to frustrate me because I'm like, what are you doing? Who shops for 4 hours? But it turns out it's actually a strength. And actually, I totally appreciate it because he is taking time with each of the kids and speaking directly into their hearts and giving them exactly what they need, right? And a lot of times in big families, that's not always easy to do, but this is one of his strengths. So rather than me being frustrated because, like who in the world shops for 4 hours? Now I'm like, oh, I so appreciate that he does that, right? And it brings like a specific like little heartwarming feeling towards him because I understand him better, right? So the name of that book was The Strengths-Based Marriage, and the book is one part of it. You do have to take a strengths assessment online, and that was $50. But I'm telling you, it was worth the money. We used it as like a date night and took the test and then went through it with each other. And then we went through the whole book. So it was actually like a 2-month process that we just intentionally did. And it was so much fun. And it really was worth the money to spend. So that, and really when it's your partner or your significant other and there is a frustration there, and you're an emotional eater, it's like you're going to feel trapped and you're going to feel like you have no other choice but to eat because that's the only joy then you'll have in life, right? So if you notice that is you're going to score low in that area, take the time and do the investing because it's not just going to help your relationship. It will also help that part of your brain that wants to eat to soothe yourself too. Okay. Now the next part is fun and recreation. So what are you doing for fun? So one of the things that Chris and I actually noticed when COVID was going down, like he and I have been very much like head down, kind of grinding it out for a few years now, as far as work goes and just trying to, save money. And we really did not, I think in our whole marriage, we've been married for 20 years. We're going on 21. We've really only taken like 3 vacations out of all that time. So one of the things once COVID hit and we kind of like lost the ability to really go anywhere and do anything, we both agreed like, look, when this all blows over, we are taking the time. We are going to travel. We are going to, take the day trips, make sure we are intentional about having more fun and doing more things recreationally. Because we always felt like, oh, I don't know if it's responsible right now. We want to be responsible. We have 8 kids. We don't want to be spending money and, making sure we have a nice savings and all that stuff. So now we're going to be very much intentional. And it just so happens he has today off. And so we're finding a town nearby that we haven't been to yet. And it's beautiful out. We're going to go walk around through town with the kids and then find some interesting things around there to do and just have fun. And not, it doesn't have to be expensive, but it's something like we both identified that, we really don't have too much fun and recreation in our lives. So I had scored low on that. And then after talking to him, he felt it too. And like, okay, that's one thing that we both agreed on. Like we are going to be more intentional about having fun and recreation in our lives. And so like today is a perfect example. I'm actually recording this earlier than I normally would so that we can get out of the house and go and have some fun, while the day is early and we can go enjoy ourselves. Okay. So the next and the last section of this pie is your physical environment. So, your home. Is it always chaotic? And I have a lot to say about this inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. But, you're making your home a haven, making it a place where you can feel invigorated, where it is a respite for you, where, and I've talked about this a lot, like studies have been done, like if your kitchen is a mess and it's always chaotic and there's just, things everywhere, it does actually stimulate your appetite, right? And so what they found was comparing a crazy messy kitchen that had food out and having people in, they studied how much food the people ate, and then they had the kitchen cleaned up and put in order, but they had the same amount of food out. And they had different subjects come in. Those people did not eat as much in the clean kitchen as they did in the messy kitchen. And I think it's because there's only so much emotional energy your brain has to cope. And for people who eat, who like they fall back on eating when they're done coping and they just like they're out of emotional energy. So that that eating, because the house is chaotic, like your brain's just like, you should just go eat, you'll feel better. And that's what our brain kind of knows what to do, is like, oh, go eat, you'll feel better. I know this about you. Right. And so it feels like an uphill battle. Then again, it's like a form of sabotage. If our home, and it doesn't have to be pristine and completely clean and tidy in order to feel comfortable. And and again, it's going to be within the boundaries of your budget, within the boundaries of your time, and within the boundaries of what you find comfortable and your personal taste and preferences, right? So one person might like ultra modern, very minimalist, right? And someone else might be like, no, I like my books and I like cozy blankets, and like it's really up to your taste and stuff. But how is your physical environment? Is it chaotic? Is there stuff everywhere? Is there no sense and there's no order? That might be a perfect place to start with if you answer yeah, my house is a total train wreck, right? If that's the case, then take time, clean out those closets. Especially what I like to do is if it's super hot out, as summer is approaching, what I like to do is then take this summer and on super hot days when there's like it's 99 out and it's just really too miserable to be outside, then clean a closet out, right? Sit in the air conditioning, clean the closets out. Like they always talk about spring cleaning, but honestly, I like dead of winter cleaning and super hot summer days cleaning, because it's like neither day you really want to be outside in. Spring and fall, I love being outside. But anyway, it's just like a little side note. So, is your physical environment conducive to your health and wellness, right? Like, does it lift you up? Do you feel comfortable being there? Is it safe to be there? All those things will play a factor in your health and wellness and eventually your weight, right? So what can you do to affect it in a positive way to get it to be where you want it to be, so that you're not eating in response to a chaotic or unsafe physical environment? Okay, so those are the spokes of the wheel in the wheel of life. And what we do is we go through them so that you can decide, okay, this is the area that I want to work on first. So it's career, money, health and well-being, friends, family, personal growth and development, your significant other and romance, fun and recreation, or physical environment. And then you rate your level of satisfaction in each area. Obviously, the closer you are to 10, the more fulfilled you feel. And then once you have marked your number in each area, then you connect each number and you kind of form a new circle. And then you can see, okay, how smooth is my life? Is it really bumpy? Do I have a lot of highs and then a lot of lows, right? What areas do need attention, and are they correlated? Like you may have money, you may have frustrations with your money, but it kind of is correlated with your spouse, right? Like maybe your spouse is a spender and money is always tight because they refuse to be on a budget, right? Like there's two pain points there. So identify it and then see what you can do. What areas of your life are you willing to address? Maybe you don't want to take that on right now. Maybe you really just want to organize your house, and maybe that's where you need to focus. Or maybe you really are just so lonely and you need to focus on forming some friendships. Okay. It's up to you what you want to work on. But definitely take a look at this, take some time, think about it this week, and decide where you want to go. And of course, you can get the Wheel of Life assessment tool inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. And in every area in this Wheel of Life, we take a deep dive inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. There are advanced classes on all of these areas. And so you can go deeper in all these areas, and you can get in there and see what's inside for only $1. And you can download the workbook and start doing the worksheets too, to help you start to bring awareness to your life and see like, okay, where are the gaps in my life and what do I really want to work on? Because this is so much more than just a diet, right? I hope I've communicated that to you. Like, this is not just like, okay, this is what you're going to eat and this is how long you're going to exercise for, and that's it. It's actually really a lot of what goes on behind the scenes, and how are you feeling, and what's affecting your weight, and how can we build a life that you love that doesn't include, or not that it doesn't include it, but like that's not just focused on what you're eating, but rather let's build a life that is sustainable and that you love, so that food really just takes its place as just nourishing you and nothing more than that. Like, it's not your best friend. It's not your lover. It doesn't care about you. It's not the best part of your day. It doesn't compensate for, financial stress or for a job that's not stimulating, right? Like, it's just there to nourish you, and your job is to really make your life awesome. So this is one of those tools that will really help you kind of start to identify where it is and then where you want to go from there. All right. I hope you have a good week. I hope you found this helpful. I would love to hear your feedback. And I would love to see you inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. I know you would get so much out of it. In the meantime, you have an awesome week, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.